Lawyers, how do you sleep defending guilty monsters? Story 1. The Best Man Who Played Lawyer. Picture a sun-drenched garden wedding, all pastel flowers and champagne flutes, where the guests are fanning themselves with programs and pretending they're not melting. The bride and groom are picture perfect, but the real drama's brewing at the head table, where the best man, a self-proclaimed fixer with a law school dropout vibe, decides to treat the reception like his personal courtroom. He's not just giving a toast, he's defending the groom's honor like it's a murder trial. He grabs the mic, adjusts his too-tight tie, and launches into a speech that's half pep talk, half legal brief. "I'm like a doctor for this wedding," he declares. "Sometimes I can save the vibe, sometimes I just make it hurt less. And when it all goes to hell, I'm your tour guide, making sure you don't face the chaos alone." Guests are confused, sipping their drinks, wondering if they missed a memo about a wedding crisis. The groom's grinning nervously, like he's not sure if this is a roast or a deposition. The best man's rant about navigating the system of marriage sounds like he's prepping the couple for a plea deal, not a honeymoon. Then comes the shift. Mid-speech, he pulls out a crumpled napkin with advice scrawled on it, confessing he's been through 3 divorces himself. The crowd's laughter fades. This guy's not joking. He's genuinely trying to defend the groom from a marriage he sees as a life sentence. But just when you think he's tanked the mood, he pivots, raising his glass to the bride. "She's the judge, jury, and executioner here, and I'm just happy to sit in the courtroom." It's a weird save, but the room softens, chuckling at his self-deprecation. The reception moves on, the cake gets cut, and nobody mentions the bizarre legal metaphors. As the night winds down, you're left thinking, that was unhinged. The drama was courtroom level, and yeah, the appetizers were pretty damn good. Story 2. The Planner Who Overcharged the Vows. Imagine a sleek hotel ballroom, all chandeliers and overpriced centerpieces, where the wedding's so polished it could be a magazine spread. But the wedding planner's got a secret. She's treating this ceremony like a high-stakes legal negotiation, and she's overcharging the couple with promises she can't deliver. The bride and groom think they're getting a fairy tale day, but the planner's running it like a plea bargain gone wrong. She's strutting around with a clipboard, barking orders at the florist like she's cross-examining a witness. 95% of weddings have flaws, she tells her assistant, loud enough for guests to overhear. Doesn't matter if they're happy or not, it's about whether we've got enough to lock in the vibe. The guests are raising eyebrows, wondering if they're at a wedding or a contract signing. The ceremony's delayed because she's haggling with the caterer over the appetizer count, insisting they've overcharged with too many shrimp. When the vows finally start, she's whispering to the officiant about mitigating damages if the bride cries too much. It's absurd. Marriage isn't a crime, but she's acting like it's a felony. Then the shift hits. The planner's clipboard reveals she's been padding the budget, charging for emotional distress insurance that's just her pocketing extra. The groom's dad overhears and confronts her mid-reception, but she doubles down, saying, "If you don't like my terms, take it to trial, aka the dance floor." The second shift comes when the bride, oblivious to the drama, thanks her in the toast, calling her the reason this day is perfect. The planner smirks, knowing she's dodged accountability. The night ends with guests dancing. Nobody mentions the weird legal metaphors. You walk away thinking, that was a scam in a sequin dress. The tension was palpable, and yeah, the shrimp was worth it. Story 3. The end of a wedding reception is a delicate operation. The venue wants you out, the older guests are fading, and the happy couple is supposed to make a grand cinematic exit. At my best friend's wedding, however, there was a slight problem with that last part. The groom was missing. The music had died, the house lights flickered on, and the party officially devolved into a search and rescue mission. Guests were fanning out, checking bathrooms, looking under tables. The bride was standing by the vintage getaway car, her arms crossed, her expression a perfect storm of fury and embarrassment. My husband was the one who found him. In the parking lot, face down, in what could only be described as a loving embrace with the asphalt. What followed was the most awkward walk of shame in human history, as my husband helped the semi-conscious groom past the bride's father and grandfather, whose glares could have curdled milk. Since the groom was in no condition to operate a doorknob, let alone a vintage car, the bride's grandfather had to drive the newlyweds on the 30-minute trip to their honeymoon suite. The story should end there, an epic embarrassment. But my friend told me the real tragedy happened later. When they finally got to the hotel room, her new husband collapsed face first onto the bed and was instantly unconscious. And there she was, alone, in a complex wedding dress with about 1,000 tiny hooks up the back. She had to wander the hotel hallways in her full bridal gown, looking for a stranger, any stranger, who could help her get undressed. That's how her fairy tale ended, not with a passionate kiss, but with a desperate plea to a random hotel guest to please, for the love of God, set her free. Story 4. Speeches from divorced parents at a wedding are always a bit of a minefield. You hope for civility, you pray for grace. What you don't expect is a live-action sociology lecture on why the speaker's first marriage failed. The groom's father, a man clearly very proud of his second act in life, took the microphone. The speech started, and then it took a hard left turn into a very weird, very specific territory. He began to talk about how much better his new wife was compared to his old wife, the groom's mother, who was sitting about 20 feet away. And then it got worse. He launched into a full-blown, deeply uncomfortable comparison of the qualities of Asian women versus white women, using his new wife and his ex-wife as his primary examples. On and on it went. The room fell silent. Every single guest suddenly found the pattern on their dinner plate or the scuffs on their shoes to be the most fascinating thing they had ever seen. I have never stared at my own footwear with such intense focus. You wait for someone to stop him, but it's like watching a car crash in slow motion. But here's the interesting part. I risked a glance at the groom's mother. She wasn't crying, she wasn't fuming. She was just sitting there, swirling her wine, with a look of profound "I told you so" boredom on her face. She was looking at her children as if to say, "See what I dealt with for 25 years. Are you getting it now?" His speech wasn't an insult to her. It was a validation of her divorce. Story 5. The Best Man Who Kept a Dark Secret. The setting's a lakeside pavilion, all soft waves and sunset glow, where the guests are sipping rosé and expecting romance. But the best man, a lawyer with a conscience heavier than the wedding cake, is carrying a secret that could derail the whole day. He knows something about the groom, something bad, and he's bound by a code that keeps him silent. During the rehearsal dinner, he's twitchy, barely touching his steak, watching the groom like he's a client about to confess. The groom's all charm, toasting his bride, but the best man knows he's hiding a deal breaker. Let's just say it involves an ex and a bad decision. He can't spill, though. It's like attorney-client privilege, except the client's the groom, and the confession's locked in his head. His speech at the reception is a masterclass in evasion. I've known this guy forever, and he's full of surprises. The crowd chuckles, but his wife, sitting next to him, senses something's off, giving him a look that could crack concrete. The first shift comes when he nearly breaks, pulling the groom aside to beg him to come clean. The groom brushes it off, saying, "After the honey, man, relax." The best man's stuck, knowing he can't ruin the day, but hating every second of his silence. The second shift hits at the end of the night, when the bride's dad thanks him for being such a loyal friend, unaware of the secret eating him alive. The reception ends with fireworks, but the best man walking away like he's carrying a life sentence. You leave thinking, that was heavy, the subtext was brutal, and yeah, the cake was pretty damn good. Story 6. The Maid of Honor Bound by Silence. This wedding's in a grand old church, all stained glass and organ music, where the guests are dressed to impress and the vibe's supposed to be sacred. But the maid of honor, a lawyer with a poker face, is hiding a bombshell. The bride confessed something wild about her past, and she's sworn to secrecy, even as the wedding spirals into chaos. The bride's radiant, but the maid of honor's on edge, clutching her bouquet like it's a legal brief. During the vows, the bride's waxing poetic about honesty and trust, and the maid of honor's internally screaming, "Girl, you told me you faked your entire dating profile." She can't say a word, client privilege, wedding edition. Her speech is a tightrope walk. "The bride's taught me about loyalty," she says, voice flat, while guests nod like it's profound. The groom's oblivious, but his sister's giving her a look like she smells the tea. The first shift comes when the bride, during the reception, drunkenly hints at her secret to a cousin, nearly blowing her own cover. The maid of honor swoops in, redirecting with a toast about new beginnings, saving the day but hating herself for it. The second shift hits when the groom pulls her aside, asking if the bride's okay, sensing her nerves. She lies through her teeth, saying she's just emotional, and walks away feeling like a traitor. The night ends with dancing and denial, nobody mentioning the undercurrent of secrets. You leave thinking, that was a cover-up, the tension was suffocating, and yeah, the buffet was solid. Story 7. The Uncle Who Confessed Too Late. The venue's a quaint countryside estate, all rolling hills and fairy lights, where the guests are toasting to love and trying not to trip over the uneven lawn. But the bride's uncle, a retired lawyer, is carrying a secret that's about to make this wedding feel like a true crime episode. He knows something about the couple's past, a messy incident from years ago, and he's been silent for way too long. He's at the head table, looking like he's aged a decade since the rehearsal dinner, where he overheard the bride joking about a wild college night that wasn't so innocent. He's bound by an old promise not to spill, but it's eating him alive. His speech is a disaster. "Marriage is about trust, unlike some choices we make," he mutters, staring at his plate. The guests think he's just drunk, but the bride's eyes widen. She knows what he's hinting at. The groom's clueless, raising his glass like it's all good. The first shift comes when the uncle pulls the bride aside, begging her to come clean before the marriage starts on a lie. She laughs it off, saying, "That was forever ago, chill." He's stuck, knowing he can't ruin her day, but feeling like he's betraying the groom. The second shift hits when, at the end of the night, he slips a note to the groom's dad, hinting at checking her story. It's vague, but it plants a seed. The reception ends with cake and secrets, nobody mentioning the uncle's cryptic vibes. You leave thinking, that was shady, the drama was quiet but deadly, and yeah, the dessert was worth it. Story 8. The Guest Who Defended Everyone. This wedding's at a rooftop venue, all city lights and overpriced cocktails, where the guests are vibing to a live band and pretending they're not checking their phones. But one guest, a public defender with a hero complex, is treating the wedding like it's his mission to save everyone from bad decisions, starting with the open bar. He's mingling, handing out unsolicited advice like it's his job. "Don't dance with the drunk uncle, it's a liability," he tells a bridesmaid. His toast is less a speech, more a manifesto. Everyone deserves a defense, even if they're guilty of picking the wrong +1. The crowd laughs, thinking it's a joke, but he's dead serious, eyeing the groom like he's a client facing a jury. The bride's mom is side-eyeing him, wondering why he's turning her daughter's wedding into a TED Talk. The first shift comes when he corners the DJ, arguing that the playlist is oppressing the vibe and needs more variety. The DJ, flustered, adds some random jazz, and suddenly the dance floor's a weird mix of groovers and confused aunties. The second shift hits when the bride thanks him for keeping things real, revealing she hired him as a guest to watch the chaos. He's not just a defender, he's her hired chaos cop. The night ends with toasts and odd playlists, nobody mentioning his courtroom energy. You leave thinking, that was weirdly noble, the drama was low-key, and yeah, the cocktails were fire. Story 9. The Aunt Who Hated Big Weddings. The setting's a sprawling estate, all manicured lawns and chandeliers, where the wedding's so lavish it feels like a corporate gala. But the bride's aunt, a pharmacist with a chip on her shoulder, is hating every second of it. She's not here for the glitz. She's got beef with big wedding types who throw cash around like it's confetti. She's at a corner table, muttering to her +1 about how these people think they're royalty, but it's just a party. Her speech is a disaster. I deal with people who think I just count pills, but this is the real scam, spending a fortune to show off. Guests are stunned, forks paused mid-bite. The bride's trying to laugh it off, but her eyes scream, "Auntie, not now." The groom's dad looks like he's ready to yeet her out of the venue. The first shift comes when she softens, admitting she's just bitter because her own wedding was a courthouse quickie. The crowd's still tense, but her vulnerability lands. The second shift hits when she gifts the couple a practical pharmacy voucher for hangover cures, turning her grumpiness into a weirdly endearing moment. The night ends with dancing and awkward hugs, nobody mentioning her anti-wedding rant. You leave thinking, that was salty, the shade was real, and yeah, the cake was damn good. Story 10. The Planner Who Bargained for Less Chaos. This wedding's in a chic urban loft, all exposed brick and craft beer, where the guests are vibing, but the planner's treating it like a plea negotiation. She's a pro at winning by reducing chaos, not creating it, and she's got her eyes on the couple's overzealous demands. She's running around muttering, 97% of weddings end in compromises. My job's to make sure they don't get life for a bad centerpiece. The bride's demanding a peacock feather entrance. The groom wants a live band and a DJ. The planner's haggling like she's in a courtroom, convincing them to ditch the feathers for logistical reasons. Her speech is a subtle jab. I'm here to make sure this day doesn't end in a sentence, or disaster. Guests chuckle, but the bride's side-eye says she caught the shade. The first shift comes when she reveals she's been cutting corners to save the budget, like swapping real flowers for fakes. Nobody notices, but it's a power move. The second shift hits when the groom thanks her for saving us from ourselves, admitting they were too extra. The night ends with dancing and no peacock feathers, nobody mentioning the planner's legal lingo. You leave thinking, that was a hustle, the drama was subtle, and yeah, the beer was solid. Story 11. The Officiant Who Fought the System. The venue's a historic courthouse turned event space, all marble and echoes, where the guests are sipping martinis and soaking in the grandeur. The officiant, a lawyer who handles mental health cases, treats this wedding like a battle against overreach by the couple, the venue, everyone. He's at the altar, preaching about protecting the rights of love. If we let this wedding go unchecked, he says, it's a slippery slope to bad toasts and worse decisions. Guests are baffled, wondering if he's marrying them or filing a motion. The bride's trying to keep it together, but the groom's uncle is muttering, "Is this guy billing by the hour?" The ceremony's a manifesto on ensuring fairness, with vows that sound like a contract review. The first shift comes when he pauses the ceremony to review the terms of the couple's promises, making them clarify their vows like they're on the stand. The crowd's amused, and the bride plays along, turning it into a laugh. The second shift hits when he joins the reception, loosening his tie and dancing like he's free from the law, showing he's got a heart under the legalese. The night ends with cheers and chaos, nobody mentioning the courtroom vibes. You leave thinking, that was intense, the drama was cerebral, and yeah, the martinis were fire. Story 12. The guest who held everyone accountable. This wedding's at a vineyard, all rolling hills and wine barrels, where the guests are tipsy and the vibe's supposed to be chill. But one guest, a lawyer with a vendetta against bad decisions, is treating the day like a trial, making sure nobody railroads the couple into a bad marriage. He's mingling, quizzing the bride's friends on intent and telling the groom's dad to prove the case for this open bar. His toast is a lecture. If we let this wedding slide without scrutiny, it's you, me, or your cousin getting roped into a bad deal next. Guests are laughing, but it's the nervous kind, like they're not sure if he's joking. The bride's mom looks ready to object. The first shift comes when he softens, admitting he's just protective because his own marriage crashed and burned. The crowd exhales, and the groom claps him on the back. The second shift hits when he saves the day, catching a typo in the venue contract that would have cost the couple thousands. The night ends with toasts and redemption, nobody mentioning his legal rants. You leave thinking, that was intense, the drama was real, and yeah, the wine was damn good. Story 13. The planner who kept it fair. The setting's a beachfront venue, all crashing waves and salty air, where the guests are barefoot and the vibe's supposed to be laid back. But the wedding planner's a defense lawyer by trade, and she's treating this day like a trial to ensure justice for the couple's vision. She's micromanaging the vendors like they're on the stand, grilling the caterer about evidence of gluten-free options. Her speech is a plea for leniency. This day's not about perfection. It's about making sure nobody gets screwed over by bad shrimp or worse vows. Guests are chuckling, but the bride's dad is wondering if she's charging by the hour. The ceremony's delayed because she's reviewing the terms with the officiant. The first shift comes when she admits she's obsessive because her own wedding was a disaster, undercooked chicken and all. The crowd softens, and the bride hugs her. The second shift hits when she pulls off a perfect sunset ceremony, proving she's not just talk. The night ends with dancing and ocean breezes, nobody mentioning her courtroom energy. You leave thinking, that was extra, the drama was subtle, and yeah, the shrimp was flawless. Story 14. The guest who fought the DJ. This wedding's at a rustic lodge, all wood beams and flannel vibes, where the guests are cozying up with whiskey and plaid. But one guest, a lawyer who hates authority, takes issue with the DJ's control over the playlist, turning the reception into his personal courtroom. He's arguing with the DJ before the toasts, saying, "You're railroading this party with generic pop." His speech is a rant. "I ran a stop sign once, and the cop tried to pin extra charges on me. Same thing here. Don't let this DJ overcharge us with bad tunes." Guests are laughing, but the DJ's sweating, wondering if he's about to get sued. The bride's trying to keep the peace, but the groom's loving the chaos. The first shift comes when he admits he's just mad because his ex left him at a wedding with a similar playlist. The crowd's sympathetic, and the DJ throws him a bone with a classic rock track. The second shift hits when he takes over the mic, leading a sing-along that saves the vibe. The night ends with dancing and whiskey, nobody mentioning his DJ feud. You leave thinking, that was wild, the drama was petty, and yeah, the drinks were solid. Story 15. The planner who didn't care about perfection. The venue's a trendy warehouse, all string lights and industrial chic, where the guests are sipping craft cocktails and vibing to lo-fi beats. The planner's a defense lawyer who's seen it all, and she's got a screw-the-system attitude about wedding perfection, treating this day like a chance to stick it to the man. She's barking at vendors, saying, "These flowers are overpriced, just like jail time for weed." Her speech is a manifesto. The wedding industry's oppressive. $2,000 for a cake? I'd rather get a guilty client off. Guests are chuckling, but the bride's mom is clutching her pearls. The ceremony's chaotic. Wrong music cues, late caterers, but she's unfazed, shrugging like it's just another day in court. The first shift comes when she reveals she's cut corners to save the couple money, like swapping out the fancy cake for a local bakery steal. The crowd's impressed, and the bride's thrilled. The second shift hits when she joins the dance floor, letting loose like she's free from the system she hates. The night ends with chaos and cheers, nobody mentioning her anti-wedding rants. You leave thinking, that was rebellious, the drama was raw, and yeah, the cake was still damn good. Story 16. The officiant who checked the rules. This wedding's at a city park, all blooming trees and picnic vibes, where the guests are sipping lemonade and dodging bees. The officiant, a defense lawyer with a stickler for rules, treats the ceremony like a courtroom, making sure every vow is admissible. He's grilling the couple on their promises, saying, "If you didn't mean forever, I can't let that slide." His speech is a lecture. "My job's to make sure this love's legit, not like a cop who forgets to read your rights." Guests are giggling, but the bride's dad is wondering if he's about to get cross-examined. The vows are delayed because he's reviewing them for clarity. The first shift comes when he admits he's obsessive because his own marriage fell apart over vague promises. The crowd softens, and the groom nods in respect. The second shift hits when he nails the ceremony, making it heartfelt despite his legal nerdery. The night ends with toasts and sunshine, nobody mentioning the courtroom vibes. You leave thinking, that was quirky, the drama was nerdy, and yeah, the lemonade was fire. Story 17. The guest who needed a defender. The setting's a hotel ballroom, all glitz and overdone decor, where the guests are dressed to the nines and the champagne's flowing. One guest, a guy who just got out of a messy legal scrape, is treating the wedding like his redemption arc, clinging to his public defender cousin like she's his lifeline. He's at the bar telling everyone, "I was a wreck until she sat next to me in court." His toast is raw. "This wedding's great, but nothing beats having someone in your corner when you're in chains." Guests are tearing up, but the bride's aunt is whispering, "Is he talking about jail?" He's oversharing, turning the reception into a therapy session. The first shift comes when his cousin, the defender, pulls him aside, warning him to chill before he ruins the vibe. He nods, sheepish, and tones it down. The second shift hits when he dedicates a dance to the couple, showing he's got heart beneath the drama. The night ends with cheers and tears, nobody mentioning his legal baggage. You leave thinking, that was heavy, the drama was real, and yeah, the champagne was solid. Story 18. The planner everyone loved. This wedding's at a cozy farm, all hay bales and mason jars, where the guests are sipping cider and feeling the rustic charm. The planner's a public defender by day, and everyone's raving about her. She's overworked, underpaid, but makes this day feel like a miracle. Her speech is humble. "I'm used to defending people nobody wants to help, so making this wedding work, that's my kind of win." Guests are cheering, but the bride's uncle mutters, "She's too good for this chaos." She's running around, fixing flower mishaps and calming the bride's nerves like she's defending a client from a life sentence. The first shift comes when she admits she's exhausted, having pulled an all-nighter in court before the wedding. The crowd's in awe, and the groom toasts her. The second shift hits when she joins the dance floor, letting loose with a joy that's infectious. The night ends with laughter and cider, nobody mentioning her heroics. You leave thinking, that was wholesome, the drama was quiet, and yeah, the food was damn good. Story 19. The planner who bailed early. The venue's a glitzy hotel, all crystal chandeliers and overpriced wine, where the guests are ready for glamour but get a dose of dysfunction instead. The planner's a public defender who's checked out, treating this wedding like it's a Friday afternoon court case she wants to wrap up fast. Her speech is a mess. I could have made this perfect, but I'm tired, so let's just get it done. Guests are stunned, and the bride's face screams betrayal. She's rushing vendors, cutting corners, and muttering about pleading out the day. The ceremony's sloppy, wrong names, late cues, and the groom's dad is ready to fire her on the spot. The first shift comes when the bride calls her out mid-reception, and she admits she's burned out from a tough case. The crowd softens, but the tension's still there. The second shift hits when she pulls off a last-minute cake save, redeeming herself just enough. The night ends with grudging applause, nobody mentioning her meltdown. You leave thinking, that was a flop, the drama was raw, and yeah, the cake was still good. Story 20. The officiant who wanted fairness. This wedding's at a beach, all sand and sunset vibes, where the guests are barefoot and the mood's supposed to be chill. The officiant, a defense lawyer, is obsessed with keeping things fair, treating the vows like a sentencing hearing. He's lecturing the couple. Love's not about winning, it's about making sure nobody gets screwed. Guests are chuckling, but the bride's mom is wondering if he's about to pull out a gavel. The ceremony's delayed because he's reviewing the vows for vindictive language. The first shift comes when he admits he's paranoid because his sister's marriage imploded over unfair expectations. The crowd nods, and the groom respects his honesty. The second shift hits when he nails the ceremony, making it heartfelt despite his legal obsession. The night ends with waves and cheers, nobody mentioning the courtroom vibes. You leave thinking, that was intense, the drama was subtle, and yeah, the seafood was fire. Story 21. The best man who didn't care about guilt. The venue's a downtown loft, all hipster vibes and craft cocktails, where the guests are vibing to indie tunes. The best man, a lawyer who's done some defense work, treats the wedding like a case he doesn't care about winning, as long as it's fair. His speech is blunt. Doesn't matter if they're perfect or a mess, everyone gets a shot at a good day. Guests are nodding, but the bride's cousin whispers, is he talking about court? He's chill, helping the groom with a spilled drink, acting like it's just another plea deal. The first shift comes when he admits he's here because the groom bailed him out of a bad breakup, making it personal. The crowd's touched, and the bride smiles. The second shift hits when he saves the day, fixing a DJ glitch with his tech skills. The night ends with dancing and cheers, nobody mentioning his heroics. You leave thinking, that was cool, the drama was low-key, and yeah, the drinks were solid. Story 22. The guest who fought the bartender. This wedding's at a rustic lodge, all woodsy vibes and whiskey shots, where the guests are cozy and the vibe's supposed to be warm. But one guest, a lawyer who hates overreach, takes issue with the bartender's stingy pours, turning the reception into his personal crusade. He's arguing at the bar. You're shorting us on whiskey like a cop piling on charges. His speech is a rant. I fought a bad rap once, and I'll fight this bar for fairness. Guests are laughing, but the bartender's sweating. The bride's trying to keep it chill, but the groom's eating it up. The first shift comes when he admits he's just mad because his ex ditched him at a similar bar. The crowd's sympathetic, and the bartender pours him a double. The second shift hits when he leads a toast that gets everyone cheering, saving the vibe. The night ends with whiskey and chaos, nobody mentioning his bar fight. You leave thinking, that was petty, the drama was fun, and yeah, the shots were fire. Story 23. The guest who roasted the cop. This wedding's at a vineyard, all wine and romance, where the guests are tipsy and the vibe's supposed to be dreamy. But one guest, a lawyer who fought a bad traffic stop, turns his toast into a roast of authority, including the venue's security guard. His speech is fiery. I beat a cop who overcharged me, and I'm here to make sure this wedding doesn't overcharge your hearts. Guests are laughing, but the security guard's glaring. The bride's trying to smile, but the groom's loving the rebellion. The first shift comes when he admits he's just salty about his court day, making it personal. The crowd softens, and the bride toasts him. The second shift hits when he saves a kid from tripping near the bar, proving he's not just a loudmouth. The night ends with wine and cheers, nobody mentioning his cop rant. You leave thinking, that was bold, the drama was spicy, and yeah, the wine was damn good. Story 24. The officiant who demanded proof. The venue's a grand hotel, all velvet and chandeliers, where the guests are sipping champagne and expecting elegance. The officiant, a lawyer with a zealot streak, treats the vows like a trial, demanding proof of the couple's love. He's grilling them. You say forever, but where's we evidence? Guests are giggling, but the bride's dad is wondering if he's about to object. The ceremony's delayed because he's cross-examining the vows for sincerity. The first shift comes when he admits he's intense because his own marriage lacked proof of commitment. The crowd's touched, and the groom nods. The second shift hits when he delivers a heartfelt ceremony, proving he's got soul. The night ends with toasts and glamour, nobody mentioning the legal vibes. You leave thinking, that was extra, the drama was sharp, and yeah, the champagne was fire. Story 25. The best man who knew too much. This wedding's at a countryside barn, all rustic charm and hay bales, where the guests are sipping cider and vibing. The best man, a lawyer with strict ethics, knows the groom's hiding a secret, but can't spill without breaking his code. His speech is careful. I've learned to keep truth safe, even when it's hard. Guests think it's sweet, but the bride's sister senses something's up. He's dodging the groom's shady past, acting like he's on the stand. The first shift comes when he nearly cracks, hinting at honesty in a toast that makes the groom sweat. The crowd doesn't notice, but the tension's thick. The second shift hits when he saves the day, fixing a lighting issue with quick thinking. The night ends with dancing and secrets, nobody mentioning his guarded vibe. You leave thinking, that was tense, the drama was subtle, and yeah, the cider was solid. Story 26. The planner who hated the system. The venue's a trendy rooftop, all skyline views and neon lights, where the guests are sipping cocktails and vibing to hip-hop. The planner, a defense lawyer, treats the wedding like a rebellion against the oppressive wedding industry. She's ranting to vendors, $600 for flowers? That's a shakedown. Her speech is a call to arms. This day's about freedom from overpriced traditions. Guests are chuckling, but the bride's mom is clutching her purse. The ceremony's chaotic, late cake, wrong music, but she's unfazed. The first shift comes when she admits she's fighting for the couple's budget because her own wedding bankrupted her. The crowd's sympathetic, and the groom toasts her. The second shift hits when she pulls off a stunning light show, proving she's got skills. The night ends with dancing and neon, nobody mentioning her rants. You leave thinking, that was fiery, the drama was real, and yeah, the cocktails were fire. Story 27. The guest who got away. This wedding's at a college campus quad, all nostalgia and cheap beer, where the guests are reliving their glory days. One guest, a guy who dodged a legal mess, treats the reception like his victory lap, bragging about how he beat the system. His toast is bold. I took a joyride once, and my lawyer got me off. Here's to dodging bad choices. Guests laugh, but the bride's mom is whispering, is he confessing a crime? He's oversharing, turning the party into a tell-all. The first shift comes when he admits he's only here because the groom vouched for him in court. The crowd's touched, and the bride smiles. The second shift hits when he saves the day, fixing a keg malfunction. The night ends with cheers and beer, nobody mentioning his legal flex. You leave thinking, that was shady, the drama was fun, and yeah, the beer was solid. Story 28. The planner who kept it real. The venue's a sleek hotel, all glass and glamour, where the guests are sipping wine and expecting polish. The planner, a court clerk with a heavy criminal docket, treats the wedding like a plea deal, focusing on keeping things fair. Her speech is practical. Most weddings end in compromises, so I'm here to make sure nobody gets screwed. Guests nod, but the groom's dad wonders if she's billing them. She's fixing vendor disputes like she's sentencing a case. The first shift comes when she admits she's here because the bride's her cousin, making it personal. The crowd's touched, and the bride hugs her. The second shift hits when she pulls off a flawless cake cutting, proving she's got heart. The night ends with wine and cheers, nobody mentioning her legal vibes. You leave thinking, that was grounded, the drama was subtle, and yeah, the wine was fire. Story 29. The guest who hated the system. This wedding's at a vineyard, all rolling hills and oak barrels, where the guests are sipping Merlot and vibing. One guest, a friend who's seen innocent people burned, treats the reception like a chance to rail against unfair weddings. His toast is a rant. I've seen good people screwed by bad systems, and this wedding's no different. Guests are confused, and the bride's mom is whispering, "Is he drunk?" He's calling out the venue's overpriced wine like it's a corrupt prosecutor. The first shift comes when he admits he's bitter because his friend's wedding ended in a messy divorce. The crowd softens, and the groom nods. The second shift hits when he saves a kid from a spilled drink, showing he's not just a grump. The night ends with toasts and Merlot, nobody mentioning his system rant. You leave thinking, that was intense, the drama was real, and yeah, the wine was damn good. Story 30. The best man who tried too hard. The venue's a community hall, all folding chairs and potluck vibes, where the guests are digging into casseroles and feeling the love. The best man, a lawyer, treats the wedding like a murder trial, trying to defend the groom's reputation with way too much effort. His speech is intense. I've seen guilty guys walk, but this groom, he's the real deal. He's got charts, actual charts, showing the groom's character evidence. Guests are laughing, but the bride's wondering if she married into a courtroom. He's overdoing it, bringing up the groom's low IQ for loyalty. The first shift comes when he admits he's trying so hard because the groom saved him from a bad case. The crowd's touched, and the bride smiles. The second shift hits when he leads a group dance, proving he's not just a legal nerd. The night ends with casseroles and cheers, nobody mentioning his trial vibes. You leave thinking, that was over the top, the drama was wild, and yeah, the food was pretty damn good.